Name me one team that plays in the Welsh League. Actually, name me the Welsh League. I'm going to give you 10 seconds here. Just name me as many teams that you know that plays in the Welsh Premier Division as you can. How's that going? Now, you may be able to name me one, maybe two. The team which you could probably name to me is a team called the New Saints, if you did think of any, which is kind of funny, considering historically they maybe have some Welsh backgrounds, but on the current map of the United Kingdom, it's actually is English. The New Saints being 16-time winners of the Cymru. Sorry, it's actually not Cymru, it's actually Cymru, I think. That's how it's actually pronounced in Welsh. So I've been saying Cymru for what it looks like for the last my entire life. Apparently, you learn something new every day. This actually is pronounced like Cymru. Welsh, innit? It's crazy. It's crazy language. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning the New Saints and why they are located in England is important for the further conversation. Welsh football is going through a bit of a midlife crisis at this stage, and there's a reason why. That conversation involves Welsh football clubs that currently plays in the English leagues and the possibility of them entering to Welsh football and the conversation of them entering the domestic Welsh football competitions, all for one main reason: European football. This, of course, involves the possibility of Swansea City, Cardiff City, Wrexham and Newport County all playing European football in the future. You'd imagine predominantly it being the likes of Cardiff or Swansea fighting for those two places, and Wrexham, let's be real, would probably also be in that conversation more too. This becomes a bit of a problem for the Welsh football game. The last time Wrexham played in European football was about 40 years ago, and that time they beat Porto. Swansea City, of course, played in European football very recently, beating Valencia 3-0 away in the Europa League and having a fantastic run, actually, in the Europa League after beating Bradford City in the League Cup final. And Cardiff City did a famous night beating Real Madrid all the way back in 1971. And Newport County, even they played in European football as well. These are all very special moments. If you're not a club which is involved in really the top 6 at all, or top 10, being in European football is almost a famous hallmark of your life. For me as a Burnley fan, I say it each video, the fact that I was able to go to Athens to watch Olympiacos beat Burnley, or go to Aberdeen, Scotland still, but then Istanbul, Başakşehir, and actually watch Burnley, my local football team, play in the Europa League is a moment in my life that I will never, ever forget. And I'm proud that I was able to experience that. And I know as a Burnley fan, I'm never going to probably experience that ever again. And that's how important European football is, because it is such a special moment. Now, of course, that was such a special moment because of the rarity of it. So the idea of Swansea City or Cardiff City being in European football now feels like a pipe dream, because it is. Because unless you're part of the top 6 or maybe even top 10, being in European football is that, a pipe dream. Even if you're someone that's a mid to lower table Premier League side, if you support a Crystal Palace, Brentford, so on and so forth, it is so special because the teams that have experienced it, like Wolverhampton Wanderers, Southampton, Brighton, Fulham, Everton, historically, that those moments will always be remembered. And that is something that clearly every fan base would want. So tell me down below your thoughts on Welsh football, and like, subscribe, and Mazar Designs for the best football prints, with many Welsh prints on my site for the national team, or for Swansea, Cardiff, Wrexham or Newport County. Link down below. Use code WALES for 15% off all items. So what is the plan? The plan is this. The plan are for these 4 traditional teams, Welsh teams, of course, all located in Wales, that currently plays in the English football domestic leagues. So this would be Cardiff, Swansea, Wrexham and Newport County to enter the Welsh League Cup, which is alongside the current Welsh Premier League. And the winners of that Welsh League Cup will be able to compete at a continental level in the next year's Conference League representing Wales. Now, this could be an issue because this means that therefore, if they also take part in the English domestic competitions, then that means that they can no longer take that spot. Now, Welsh football is not particularly took too seriously, unfortunately. When it comes to the Welsh League Cup final last year between the New Saints and Swansea's under-21s, the capacity for the final for the Welsh League Cup was 711, which, I mean, you get more people in attendance in National League South and North games on a regular basis. So from the perspective of match-going Welsh fans that supports their local Welsh clubs, the idea of having these bigger clubs in the League Cup and in that system could be somewhat beneficial, and if they of course have a better chance of doing well in these European competitions, then that can also boost up their co-efficiency rating as well, because you'd imagine they'll be doing better than the likes of the New Saints, so in some way they can benefit from that as well, and maybe have some more money in the process. All this comes down to money and opportunity. Now, of course, the realistic side is if these clubs are allowed into the Welsh Cups, then that means that pretty much any Welsh football clubs that's in the Welsh Premier would pretty much stand no chance of actually winning it, compared just to the sheer depth and gap of finances and, let's be honest, quality compared to, let's say, Swansea City and Cardiff City compared to, let's say, the best club in the Welsh Premier, the New Saints. But they are giving a pretty good go of themselves, at least, to New Saints, as they are actually right now in the league phase of the Europa Conference League, which is a massive achievement and a big deal. Now, keep in mind the Welsh Cup, which is currently going on right now, the New Saints, they've beat a team 16-0 5 days ago. That's the gap between even the New Saints and other clubs in the Welsh divisions. But to be fair to them, they didn't get battered. They actually played against Fiorentina at the start of the month away. They only lost 2-0, which in the grand scheme of things is actually not a bad result. This is all labelled as Project Wales, basically to try to add some more validity and respect and reputation onto the Welsh footballing game. Because if you are a Welshman or a Welsh woman, the main issue with the Welsh game is that from an English perspective, a lot of people don't take it all too seriously, because a good chunk of players that currently plays in the Welsh national team, a good chunk of them are not even from Wales, or not born and raised in Wales, and plays for the Welsh national team due to a family member that they have, a grandma, dad, granddad, whatever else. And usually this comes across as, well, they are nowhere near good enough to play for the English national team, so they go to wherever they could possibly play European football. It reminds me of when Scott Arfield, who's born and raised in Falkirk with the most Scottish accent you've ever heard, now suddenly is Canadian and he's playing for the Canadian national team, which I find really funny, because he's the most blatantly Scottish bloke you ever hear or meet. Let's say, for example, the recent competition they were in, the World Cup 2022, right? Of that 26-man Welsh squad, only 16 players in that squad were even born in Wales. In contrast to the Euro 2016 squad, of those 23 players, 9 were born in England. Now, in terms of where a player is born, it doesn't really mean too much, as long as if they're raised and they're engrossed into the Welsh culture, then that shouldn't really be a problem. The main key issue that usually is not the case. Best example of this is, of course, the likes of a Sober Thomas, who born in London, raised in London, entire life was in London. He was actually called up for the England C team and took part in the England C team back in 2020. Of course, it was called off due to COVID. However, because his mother was Welsh and has a Welsh heritage, that, like many others, he's never going to play for the English national team. So you might as well play for Wales. And that's not an issue. I would do the exact same thing if I was in this situation. Welsh football wants to have pride in its own sport again. And that means that putting Wales back onto the map and having pride in the clubs that takes part in it. And that's where the main issue lies. That if the Welsh clubs that takes part in the English game is benefiting the most from the Welsh competitions, then it feels a bit iffy. The main confusing part is the fact that the current best team, well, for many years now, is the New Saints, that despite historically may have their roots to Wales, they are literally located in England for quite a long time. So the actual current best Welsh team is not actually Welsh. That's why it kind of adds a few strange elements to this conversation. So despite this potential lack of a European spot, what they can get back in return is money. This isn't to put down this level, however, compared to their quarter-final attendances last season, they had 136 and 140 fans in attendance for the quarter-finals. That's not great. However, this revamp of the Welsh Premier and also the League Cup competition, whatever revenue that this may gain additional because of this revamp and the new teams, finances from that can be split to go back into these Welsh football clubs, so they can actually gain from it as well. And in return, the European spots can go to the likes of the Cardiffs and the Swanseas and the Wrexhams. By winning a single game in the Europa Conference League, that you receive €400,000 by winning a single game. Now, the deal could be that if they enter these competitions, a portion of that money for each victory can go towards a pot that can help fund and finance the Welsh football game. And these typically part-time football clubs, that is where they can benefit from this. Because right now, Wales is ranked 50 in the coefficiencies in Europe, which is 50 out of 55, just to let you know. And the only nations worse than them is North Macedonia, Belarus, Andorra, Gibraltar, and yes, you guessed it, San Marino. So by having the bigger clubs in the game means therefore that they should also be having a higher coefficient rating, therefore more income from UEFA that can go and fund the Welsh game, grassroots football facilities, academies, so on and so forth. One also bit of information that I keep on seeing like kind of thrown around is that, oh, this is all some ploy from Wrexham and the Hollywood boys, that this is all just to get European football for their TV show or whatever. But that's actually not true. It was actually Swansea City's chairman that proposed this entire plan. Now, is this even possible? It is possible, however, how fast it can work may take some time, as there's sponsors and all these legalities that may need to wait until you can really do that conversation. In an ideal world, this could potentially be put into place in 2026, 2027, where these 4 clubs can play at least in one Welsh domestic competition, and that means that they can also go into those spots. Now, does this mean that these 4 teams can no longer also play in English domestic cups? That's one thing that probably needs to be communicated, that if you play in the Welsh League Cup, can you no longer play in the English League Cup? You would imagine that would be the case, not for legalities, but most importantly for scheduling. That seems like it'd be a big problem. So if it's a possibility of no longer playing in League Cup. But then again, Swansea City did actually win the League Cup back in 2013, so hey, what do I know? But in the realms of possibilities and probabilities, it's less likely than it is likely, other than the almost near 25 to 30% guarantee you have if you play in the Welsh League Cups, and you will likely have Swansea v Cardiff or Wrexham v Swansea, or so on and so forth, almost every other year. Tell me what you guys think about this. I've seen this coming up and I found it interesting, so I felt like doing a video talking about it. Tell me down below your thoughts, and I'll see you guys next time. See ya.